question is Starlink really worth it? It's actually a really easy answer, and I'll show you. Come along. We live off the grid in our tiny home behind me that we have been building for the past year, and just up in the corner there, you can peek at our Starlink. Now, it's only been there for a month, but for the 3 years we've had it, it's been over here. Its first home was actually just outside the van behind me. Logan and I have lived in this van for the past 5 years up until a month ago, and we had been completely off the grid that whole time. We've had the Starlink for the past 3 years, and we needed internet because our jobs are completely based online. We live in the middle of the wilderness and we needed access. So that's where Starlink came in. Up on our roof here, you can actually see the dish behind me. Starlink is one of the easiest setups for internet ever. It's literally that dish and this modem, you plug it in and that's basically it. It starts working pretty much right away, and all you have to do is download the app and put in your credentials and you're done. I'm not even joking, it is that simple. Now, the jump from tethering our phone data for work to using our Starlink was absolutely huge because it's unlimited data across the Starlink, whereas you pay an arm and a leg for any sort of data from your phone. So for us who live in the middle of nowhere, it was a cost saver and a huge jump. Now, when I do say cost saver, I don't mean it's pennies on the dollar for paying for Starlink monthly. It is more expensive than, say, a conventional fiber optic connection, but the thing is, you're paying for what you're getting. You get unlimited data in the middle of the wilderness. I mean, what's better than that? Now, Starlink is one of the coolest technologies out there, and I don't want to get too technical for you guys, but basically this is communicating with satellites 300 kilometers plus above the Earth, like that, in absolute milliseconds. And it's doing it by tracking those Starlinks across the sky. There's some really cool videos out there that we can actually see the technical part of it, and it really is amazing. As for the mounting here, I just decided to mount it on the side of the roof using a bracket, and that way it's getting the best possible signal from where we are. As per the performance, let's check it out. I actually keep the Starlink router up in the center of the house, right up there. And this one that I showed you is actually what I use as a mesh node a little bit further on the property, so we have more coverage on the property. But let's take a look at the performance right now. So if I pull up the app here, you can see that that mesh node is disconnected, and it's telling me that. It's got a really good little UI here. But let's take a look at the speed that we're getting right now. So this is actually on the lower end of today, and my guess is because a lot of people using the same satellites are on the internet right now. But about 66 megabit download and roughly about 12 megabit upload right now, which is pretty good. Another cool thing you can see is obstructions, and this is a three-dimensional map of the sphere sky that it uses to contact with the satellites. And as you can see, I'm mostly clear except for the trees in the corner here, which really don't affect my performance too much. And the last thing I use on this app a lot is the statistics here. It kind of shows you the uptime and the latency and usage. I actually use this a lot when Logan tells me that either the internet's not working or something's not working for her. I can check on this and I'll know if it's actually a connection issue or maybe the power's out or something like that. Now, 3 years in, I obviously can't tell you that Starlink is perfect. No internet service provider is. But here are some of the things that I've faced or had problems with in the past 3 years. Number one, if it's raining like a storm or if there's a really heavy snowfall going on, the latency of the Starlink connection is really high. So if you're playing video games, you're gonna notice it. If you're just watching videos, scrolling websites, watching Netflix, something like that, you will never notice it. So for most people, it's not a big issue. Now, obviously I mentioned snow. The actual dish completely melts off the snow, so that's not a worry. And really it takes very little power. Another disadvantage I've kind of faced was when I first moved it to the house here instead of where I originally had it, I did have to cut down some trees that were really blocking the line of sight of the dish and did affect performance enough that I noticed. So that wasn't a big issue for me. I was gonna cut down trees next to the house anyways, just because of deadfall. But it is something you kind of have to factor in when you're adding to your homestead or your off-grid property. And the last problem I've faced is service interruptions. Sometimes there's stuff out of your control. There may be a clear blue sky, but for whatever reason, whether it's the satellite, the dish, or power or something like that, there is sometimes service interruption. So 3 years on, is Starlink worth it? The answer is absolutely. There is so much that goes right with Starlink all the time. Like any service, there's some small problems here and there, but Starlink is one of the best services I've ever paid for, and there's so much support behind it. I would absolutely recommend it. I would like to hear though what your scenario is, and if you have Starlink, if you have any problems, if you enjoy it, or maybe you're thinking about it, you want to put it in your cottage or your off-grid cabin, something like that. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below and I'll try to help you out the best I can. And if you want to find out anything else about our tiny home build or our off-grid property, you can find that all on my channel page. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.